If we compare each person's life to a short film, the film titled Luka Modric would surely be on the list of Oscar nominees. Not because Modric is a playwright, but simply because the story of this Croatian player has all the layers of meaning and character development needed for a compelling narrative. From a shepherd boy in Croatia, Modric had to hide from random bullets and seek shelter in war bunkers. His relatives fell one by one to the shadows of war. And then, when everything calmed down, this extraordinary son of Croatia seized every opportunity to rise to the top. However, at the time he reached his first Ballon d'Or, he still couldn't win the hearts of his fans back home, and even faced the threat of imprisonment. And that is the extraordinary story of Luka Modric. Looking at Modric's current success, few know that his childhood was as tumultuous as it was. Sometimes just one stray bullet, and Luka Modric would have remained forever on a green field, his body bloodied, and his name lost in obscurity. One day, when Modric was asked whether his children knew the stories from his life, he replied, "No." He added, "I never told them anything. They saw the house where I grew up, but they don't know what happened. Maybe they're too young and not ready to understand." Luka Modric's eyes gazed into the distance as he finished speaking. Perhaps he was remembering the scorched walls, collapsed roofs, and heavily damaged roads, reminders of the brutal war that crossed his path and left scars he'll never forget. During his childhood, for the first 6 years of his life, his grandfather taught him how to be a shepherd, how to hunt, and how to survive in a perilous environment. Modric was small but understood why his grandfather was doing this. He wanted Modric to survive under any circumstances or whatever might happen, and eventually, it did. In 1991, the flames of war in Croatia grew intensely, and a Serbian armed group named Chetniks swept through Croatia. They raided towns from place to place, expelling Croatians from their homes. Chetniks would kill anyone who resisted them. Ultimately, they reached Modric's village. His grandfather decided not to leave but to stay put, thinking his house near a rock outcropping on the mountainside wouldn't attract the enemy's attention. However, war shows no mercy. One day, when Modric left home to shepherd, which might have been the luckiest day of his life, a shout erupted near his grandfather's house, followed by a burst of machine gun fire, and then everything fell silent. The Chetniks didn't care that Modric's grandfather was a 66-year-old shepherd. If a 6-year-old Modric stood in front of them, the outcome would have been the same. Modric's family had to flee to a safer place, and he was admitted to his first football academy, NK Zadar, near their new home. But the war continued. Modric's childhood was filled with days playing football and hiding in bunkers to avoid stray bullets. But Modric understood that life never stops, and he would continue with football, regardless of the rain of bombs and bullets. In the midst of such adversity, Croatia discovered Modric, a magical boy with the ability to keep the ball glued to his feet all day. Modric's talent soon caught the attention of Zdravko Mamit, a man who represented both the devil and the angel to Croatian football. Mamit was then just a football agent. At 15, Modric joined the illustrious Dinamo Zagreb. At 18, Modric was sent on loan to Zrinski Mostar in Bosnia's league, with many predicting he'd quickly fail in the physically demanding league. But Modric surprised everyone by becoming the hero who saved Zrinski Mostar from relegation, taking them to mid-table, and even becoming the best player in the league that year, despite being only 18. His team ranked in the lower half of the standings, yet Modric won the league's Best Player award. Modric was once again rejected by Zagreb and loaned to another club. But amusingly, Inter Zaprasic, where Modric was loaned, finished second in Croatia's league that year, while his parent club Zagreb struggled in the relegation zone. Zagreb would have actually been relegated if it weren't for Modric coming back to save them. Modric won the Player of the Year award twice. In his final season with the club, he scored 13 goals and made 11 assists, contributing to a goal every 82 minutes, leading them to a 28-point league victory. He quickly established himself as one of the most outstanding players, not only in Croatia, but also globally. His fame spread, drawing interest from Barcelona, Arsenal, Manchester City, and Chelsea. However, he chose Tottenham in a record-breaking transfer worth €16.5 million. Unfortunately, things didn't go as expected. From the moment he joined Tottenham, Modric suffered a knee injury. Additionally, he wasn't allowed to play in his preferred position and was required to play off the left wing. And to make things worse, Tottenham was experiencing a horrendous slump, with only one win in their first 10 games. This led many to question his talent. But after Harry Redknapp's arrival, everything changed. Redknapp immediately liked Modric and built the team around him with almost instant results. The following season, despite breaking his leg, Modric continued to impress. Redknapp once said, "He's a coach's dream. Trains like a demon and never complains. He could fit into any of the top 4 teams." Indeed, Tottenham finished in the top 4 for the first time in 21 years. Modric later teamed up with Gareth Bale, delivering standout performances in the Champions League, beating Inter and AC Milan. Bale was named Player of the Tournament, and Modric was named Club's Player of the Year. Modric then moved to a new club, Real Madrid, after early glory with Tottenham. However, he again struggled with adaptation under Mourinho's style. But Mourinho never complained about Modric. At the time, Real Madrid's locker room was chaotic, with a solid midfield of Ozil and Xabi Alonso, leaving little room for Modric. Real Madrid trailed Barcelona by 16 points as Christmas approached, with every newspaper looking for someone to blame, and there was Modric. With his high transfer fee and unimpressive statistics, just 1 goal and 1 assist, Marca declared him the worst signing of the season. However, in the second half of the season, Modric turned things around, assisting the winning goal in El Clasico, scoring the decisive goal against Manchester United in the Champions League, and generally establishing himself as one of the most reliable players. This transformation became even more significant with Carlo Ancelotti's arrival. Modric quickly rose from a key player to a club legend. He played a pivotal role in Real Madrid's historic La Decima victory, even providing the assist for the winning goal. Regarding his glory, I leave that to another video, where Modric's triumphs have been etched into our memories. In this clip, I wanted to highlight a more poignant perspective of Luka Modric. Do you remember Mamit? He's the man. After a few years, Mamit became one of the leading figures in Croatian football. But to get there, he did almost everything from shady business deals during the war to defrauding young players with exploitative contracts and threatening journalists who opposed him with evidence. Mamit was involved in match fixing, tax evasion, and bribery. Mamit became one of the most wanted and hated men in Croatia in 2008. The police eventually sentenced Mamit to 6 years in prison, but he fled Croatia before the police could arrest him. But how does this connect to Modric? Modric's transfer to Tottenham was one of Mamit's shadiest transactions. Out of 16.5 million euros, 10 million euros were funneled into Mamit's pockets due to previous arrangements. A portion of Modric's salary was also shared with Mamit as a gratitude fee. However, for Modric, Mamit might have been more of a benefactor than a parasite. When the court summoned Modric to testify, he refuted all other testimonies and defended Mamit despite the Croatian public's boos and hisses. Things worsened when Mamit was eventually sentenced to death, and Modric was accused of perjury, facing a trial and the possibility of up to 5 years in prison if found guilty. After his testimony, Modric was treated like Croatia's enemy. Modric is Mamit's pawn. Before the 2018 World Cup, nobody in Croatia believed their team and their conductor Modric could go so far. Before the tournament, journalists asked him how he felt about facing these issues. Perhaps out of fatigue from constant scrutiny, Modric replied, "Don't you reporters have any better questions?" Even on the day he won the prestigious 2018 Ballon d'Or, breaking the Ronaldo-Messi dominance, many in Croatia still openly hated him, believing he was no different from dictator Mamit, with the only difference being that they worked in different fields, both chasing fame and fortune. However, someone who grew up in a war zone like Modric understands where his true value lies. For him, just being alive and contributing to society is a dream, a beautiful achievement life has bestowed upon him. Those who have been in bomb shelters from a young age often pray for salvation. Football gave him everything, from hope to escape war to a home and fame at Tottenham, to becoming the world's #1 player. No matter the cost, Modric would likely still feel satisfied. Modric may not be perfect in the eyes of Croatian fans, But that may not be a sad thing. It might be a unique flavor that makes his life story more dramatic.